Hey, so this is Joel again, out doing some photography again today. So we are out in the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest and just getting some photos here of Panther Creek. We'll give you a little idea of the area.
So occasionally I get people ask me how I edit my photos. So after this short hike video here at Panther Creek, I was going to go run through my Lightroom edits that I do. This is going to be pretty basic. If you have little to no Lightroom experience, this might be helpful. If you have a lot, you're probably not going to learn much from this. But anyway, I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to be starting in just a few seconds. Thanks a lot. Okay, so this is Joel, and I'm going to do a quick edit from a hike I just went on up to Panther Creek, and do a quick walkthrough on the Lightroom changes, adjustments I'm going to make to this photo. So I've already opened it up in Lightroom. I'm in the Develop module. So typically what I do is I start out and I change my highlights, take them down, move my shadows, and then I always like to check up here on my histogram and see where my white balance, my whites were, and just tuck those over a little bit. And then same with my blacks. So just take those down a little bit. I like to kick up the clarity a little on landscape photos. Same with the vibrance. Get those greens popping. Saturation I keep generally just a tab. I feel like having that universally hitting every color on there isn't kind of what my favorite thing to do is. So vibrance I feel is a way better adjustment than saturation. Then typically I'll come down here to the second module here in the tone curve and kind of try to get myself a nice little S curve going here. So I'm going to move up my highlights a little bit and come down here and knock my shadows down. Little, crank up my lights a little bit and take down my darks. So I like to have this nice gradual S curve here in the tone curve. Then we'll step into color. So we've got HSLN color and then black and white here. So on this one we'll just adjust some color here. So on this, not probably a lot of reds, you know, so you can kind of play with it, move it back and forth. Really nothing's changing, so I'm going to leave that where it was. If you double click on your slider, that'll take you back to 0. Orange, I'm going to bring that up a little bit. If you look over here, these rocks, there's a little bit of orange in them that I want to highlight. Same in here. Up here in these trees, there's a little bit of orange that I'd like to bring out a little bit more. Now on this one, on the yellows, you want to be super careful when you're dealing with moss, because as I turn that up, see how I've become nuclear colored moss. So again, with my moss, because of the moss, I'm going to keep yellow at 0. Green, I'm going to bring up just a little bit, just to bring up some accent here in the moss without making it look fake. My aqua, sometimes in these waterfall pictures you can get a little aqua in your runoff of your water that I personally like. Kind of watch your blues. Blue can be a little bit too much, so I'm not going to really mess with my blue much. On this scene, I didn't have any sky. It was overcast anyway, so I didn't have to deal with that. And then really probably no purples or magentas in this scene. So then going to move down to luminosity. And this is basically taking these same colors that I saturated and just seeing if I can make them pop. So see over here in this corner, by turning that up, you can really see the orange kind of under the water here. I did use a polarizer to try to cut down on some of that glare, but so we'll kind of play with that a little bit. Maybe not quite there, maybe 18. Pops a little bit without it being too much. Again, I'm not going to deal with the yellow, green. I'll maybe kick up just a little bit just to highlight the moss on these rocks here where a little bit of sun was coming through. Again, my aqua, I might give that a little bit. See, as I turn that down, if I turn it up a little bit, I'm getting a little bit of that blue flowing through my white water there. Might add just a slight bit of blue to highlight the whites coming off these little rocks. Okay, this particular photo, I'm not really going to deal with split toning. I will change the sharpening. So when you're in details here, if you hit this little target zoom area, if you click here, you go into your photo, now you can see that I have, where I've clicked here is now in this little detail window. So as you increase your sharpening, you can see kind of close up of what that's going to give you on your photo. And this is a really good time to talk about the options on a Mac. So if I push my options button right here and I go down here to masking, what I can do is I can fine tune on my photo where I want this masking to happen. I don't want it to sharpen the whole thing. I just want to kind of highlight the parts of it. So again, I'm hitting option and doing my slider. Same here with the radius. And then I'll move my detail down a little bit. Okay, so that way I can kind of fine tune where that sharpening is going to happen in my photo. Don't really feel like I have any noise going on here. I use a tripod. Don't see much movement, so I think I'm good there. And this color slider, I've moved it a million times in other photos, and I don't see that it does anything. I will remove any kind of aberration. I didn't really change much. I think my horizon's pretty straight, so I'm not going to worry about my transforming this at all. Effects, you could put in a little vignette if you wanted. Darken up the edges so the focus is going to be here with the water coming through here a little bit. Again, you can move this around with your midpoint. I want to keep the highlights here on this water that's flowing out of the photo. And same with the roundness of that. You can kind of play around with that. So see how if I bring that in, it darkens up the edges more. And I probably want that. And then again, you can feather this in quite a bit. See here, I've got like really nasty edges, which clearly you don't want to have, right? So I'm going to feather that out. So you don't want people to see that you're threw a vignette on. You want it to be subtle. I do like to dehaze just a little bit. So it almost like uses like a little sharpening and contrast, I think. But I kind of just like to crank that up just a slight bit. Okay, so then last thing I'm going to do on this particular photo is, check for any spots that aren't looking good. Did I have anything on my lens that I need to clean up? And it doesn't really look like it. Just looking through, you can zoom in. You can also move around your photo. And it looks pretty good. So I think I'm good there. I am going to use my paintbrush here. So with this, if you haven't used this, it's a great tool. So we're going to go down here. We're going to click this, show selected mask overlay. So if I click on this, right, and then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to use this. I'm going to do a little burn. And so now I'm going to lay this down a little bit in here. You see where it's just turning pink a little bit here. I'm going to see if I can kind of blow. I've got some blown highlights in my waterfall, which I personally don't like. So I'm going to see if I can fix those a little bit. And so now that I've got them highlighted, I can go down here and I can shut off my show selected mask. All right, go over here, and I can use this slider to adjust. So see, I've gone way too far. Now my highlights are super blown out. Yeah, there we go. So you see how this area was, like, I had some way too bright, right? With I was using a longer exposure on this, and so I'd really blown out as the waterfall was coming in here. But with just a slight painting on and doing a little burn, I have really improved that. If you want to see again the areas, if you just hover over this little button, it'll show you that mask overlay, right? Or you can come back here to the show selected mask overlay. Just make sure you click that off when you actually go to make your adjustment. Okay, so to me that looks way better. Then, you know, probably maybe this rock face here is a little dark, because it's kind of the main feature in my photo. I'm going to lighten that up a little bit here. So again, I'm going to go new. I'm going to go down here to the show mask. I'm just going to get a slight mask on this rock. Don't want to overdo it too much. Subtlety is important. And this one I'm actually going to go and lighten. I'm going to dodge this. Okay. Yep. Make sure you take off the selected mask so you can see what you're doing. All right. So if I move it to about there, see how much detail it's able to pull out of that without it looking artificial. So I've got, you know, nice sun coming off of this rock here, these rocks here, and I'm getting just a little slight reflection off of here. You know, you wouldn't want to blow this up too much, because clearly if the sun was coming this direction onto here, this would be dark. It wouldn't be as light as here because it's in the shade of the top of the rock. But I like this just a little hint, and gives you a little bit more detail in the center of your photo. Okay. And then you can take a look to see kind of the before and after here. So if I click on this little turn off the brush adjustments tool here, that was the before, and that's the after. So I think the after is definitely better. You know, like my whole thing when I'm working on a photo is I don't want it to be, you know, look overdone. I want it to look pretty natural. So if you hit your Y button, Y will give you, this was the before, this was out of camera, raw, and then this is what we've done so far, you know. So if you can see here, we've enhanced the greens a little bit, we've sharpened it up a little bit. I've taken this kind of this blown out water here from my exposure, and I've brought some detail into that. This rock was pretty dark. I've lightened that up and brought some detail to that rock. But again, generally speaking, you know, this still looks like, you know, a photo that I took in nature. I didn't crank things up or it made it look like just completely ridiculous colors. I just, small enhancements is what you're looking for here, okay? And zoom that out a little bit so we can see the whole thing. You know, all in all, I think that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that for just a, you know, so wanted to show you kind of a quick edit of one of my photos from our Panther Creek hike. And be sure to, if you like it, throw up a like. If you have any suggestions, you know, I'm open to that as well.